I decided for this video to talk about something that had relative success in its life, rather than being stuck in the planning stage or having only one race to its name. The Jaguar XJR-14 is known by longtime racing fans as a great car, and I can understand why. It managed to win the 1991 World Sports Car Championship after all. However, while it did have some success, it had some trouble in its life as well, namely in the American portion of its life. I'll get to that in a moment, but first, let's do the overview. Much like the car in my previous video, the Jaguar XJR-14 was built to comply with the new and controversial regulations requiring 3.5-liter naturally aspirated engines in their race cars, as opposed to the turbo engines from the previous Group C regulations that came before them. Group C regulations also had a fuel consumption limit, which was removed, allowing engines to suck in as much fuel as they can and pump out loads of power because of it. That naturally shifted the design philosophy of the car from one of minimal drag, minimal downforce, to one of maximum downforce and consequently high drag. The designers didn't worry about it, as the extra power produced by their planned engine should be able to punch through the air at competitive speeds, even with the extra drag. Tom Wilkinshaw Racing, the group in which Jaguar's race cars raced under, had a conundrum with their engine decision. Their first option was to use the engine they had in the XJR-11. It was a 3.5-liter engine, however, it was a twin-turbo engine instead of a naturally aspirated one. That would require them to take the turbos off the engine, which not only wasn't a realistic option, but it wouldn't follow through with TWR's promise of a bespoke engine for their prototype. So instead, they approached Ford. Since Ford had a partnership with Jaguar, they were able to acquire a 3.5-liter V8 engine. Specifically, the Ford HB V8 Formula 1 engine that was used by the Benetton Formula 1 team. They detuned it from its F1 iteration to enhance the reliability of the engine. Their attempts, for the most part, were successful in that regard. Development began early in 1990, and by the time it showed up to the first race in the 1991 season, the 430 kilometers of Suzuka to be specific, it was clear the cars were top competitors. Both XJR-14s were over 2 seconds faster in qualifying than the other cars. However, neither car finished in the points. Despite that failure, many believed it was a result of Peugeot's luck on that race rather than the competitiveness of their 905. The following race at Monza cleared up any doubt that Jaguar were championship competitors, getting a 1-2 finish there before getting a first and third place in the following race at Silverstone. Next up on the calendar was the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where TWR initially wanted to field the XJR-14s. However, due to uncertainties with the HB engine's development, they weren't completely sure it would survive a full 24 hours. Instead, they entered 3 of their older XJR-12s, which finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th behind Mazda's 787B. While the XJR-14 wasn't able to compete, the decision to pull them from the race was justified by Peugeot's 905B's failure to complete the race. And considering Peugeot was one of their main competitors, they didn't feel too bad about not getting first place in this regard. With the 430 kilometers of Nürburgring came the return of the XJR-14s, where they once again achieved a 1-2 finish. The following races at Manicor and Mexico City saw a slight upset with the two Jaguars, with the first race yielding a 3rd place and a 5th place for the Jaguars, and the second one only having one Jaguar starting and finishing in 6th place. However, even with the 2 setbacks, they were still sitting pretty. And at the final race at Autopolis, where they got 2nd and 3rd place, their position as the world champions of the 1991 World Sports Car Championship was confirmed. Following the 91 championship, Jaguar decided to pull out of Group C racing, putting an end to the European development of the XJR-14. It was quite the ride, and I can totally see why people think it's one of the greats. However, there's also another side that we need to look at, the American side. After Jaguar decided to pull out of Group C, they decided to try and focus their efforts on the IMSA Camel GTP Championship. It replaced their XJR-12 GTP midway through the season, debuting at the Grand Prix of Miami. Coming off of the victory of the 1991 WSPC, the expectations were high that the XJR-14 would dominate this championship as well, especially considering the US had a higher amount of high downforce tracks. And expectations only further increased as it shattered Miami's lap record by 4 seconds. Now, for people not really knowledgeable in racing, 4 seconds is a real long time in the racing world. For you guys who only know F1 or another widely popular racing series, you see these drivers manage to take first place by thousandths of a second. That's the norm. But this Jaguar managed to beat the fastest lap a person's ever done by 4 whole seconds. At that time, of course. That's quite a feat. However, despite the good showing in qualifying, they didn't win the race. In fact, the only 2 race wins that they had were at Road Atlanta and Mid-Ohio with the XJR-14. Every other time, it was a low position or a DNF. Something that TWR didn't find out until it was too late was that the XJR-14's wheels couldn't withstand the sustained Gs that came with the US's high downforce tracks. The wheel failures were so bad that on 2 occasions, one at Road America and the other at Lime Rock, the cars actually had accidents which resulted in them failing to complete the race and damaging the chassis greatly. Due to a lack of a solid development program, they couldn't fix the wheel problem by the end of the championship and instead just had to repair the damage each time. These 2 problems resulted in them being forced to take 3rd position in the championship standings, the lowest position Jaguar ever got in the IMSA Camel GT Championship at that point. At the end of the championship, the XJR-14's program ended completely. However, this wouldn't be the end for the XJR-14's chassis. At the same time it was participating in the Camel GT, Jaguar entered an agreement with Mazda to produce more XJR-14 chassis for them. Their newly renamed Mazda MXR01 was given a Mazda badge to Judd V10 and entered into the 1992 World Sports Car Championship. Unfortunately, it couldn't garner the same success as the XJR-14, having no wins to its name. Also, a side note for the people who watch my NP35 video, I include this one because the MXR01 was pretty much just a rebadged XJR-14 with a different engine. The extent at which this car was modified wasn't as far as the X250 was changed. And of course, I won't fail to mention that one of the chassis was modified in a similar vein to the P35 and given to Porsche to participate in the 1996 and 1997 24-hour Le Mans. But of course, like I said in the X250's case, I consider the Porsche WSC95 a different car with how much was done to it. So that's the story of the Jaguar XJR-14. It was a resounding success in its first year of European racing, but it unfortunately failed to capture that same dominance in America the following year. You may be curious if I still think it should be considered one of the greats, even with its relative failure in America. And to be honest, yeah, I do. It accomplished its goal perfectly well with the WSPC. The decision to run it in America seemed more like a way to get out of developing the XJR-16 further for their American endeavors. Considering I haven't read or heard anything about that decision, I can't really say definitely if it was a calculated decision or just a way to get out of putting money into another car's development. So take that speculation with a grain of salt. And hey, if anyone has any proof of one way or the other, leave it in the comments section. I love learning about new things about the cars like these. Welcome to the end of the video. Congrats if you got this far. I'm glad you took the time to watch this video or even just listen to it. I really enjoy talking about these race cars, so if people can enjoy my gushing about them, then it just makes me that much happier. If you liked my stuff, be sure to like the video, subscribe for more content. I don't really have a definitive schedule for uploads, I just make these videos whenever I can. If you have anything to say, be it criticism or otherwise, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.